Right now, we're all aware that this is a thing, right? That this is an issue. Fake news is a term that I hear on the daily.
Fake news can have real-world consequences.
You are fake news.
Sir. Fake news. He is a founder of fake news.
So let's seize the opportunity and let's really dig into a conversation about what fake news is, what fake news isn't, and how in a democracy we need to distinguish between the two. As long as there's been news stories, there's been manipulated news stories. Famously, in the late 1800s, there was an incident in Havana Harbor that led to the Spanish-American War, and William Randolph Hearst and his newspaper company famously exaggerated that story in an effort to stir up support for a U.S. war with Spain.
History is full of examples in which media manipulation has impacted world events. Our unprecedented access to news and information through new technology has only increased the opportunities for manipulation. We do not know what to trust. When post-truth and fake news are named words of the year by dictionaries, it is obvious that trust in journalism has eroded to the point of crisis.
I think the fact that we have this new technology, that it's so easy and it's so widespread, means that the consequences are more immediate.
In the old days, in order to get an idea published, to get a story published, to get an article published, you would have had to work for a reputable outlet. Now anyone can put anything out there, so fake news is everywhere.
In 2012, Dr. Martin Hilbert and his team at the University of Southern California conducted a statistical study in which they concluded that we now receive 5 times as much information every day as we did in 1986.
Journalism has gone from getting the story right to getting the story first. And when we're not talking about the next day's paper, but we're talking about an article online in seconds or minutes, I think a lot of journalists sometimes make questionable calls just because they want to be the first out there.
As a member of the future generation of decision makers, I decided to investigate how high school students make sense of the overwhelming amount of media in our world today. In 2016, researchers at Stanford University released results of a study which indicated how difficult it is for young people to determine the credibility of information they find online. The researchers administered 56 tasks to thousands of students. Upon analyzing the data, they concluded that most middle school students could not distinguish between sponsored content and real news. Many high schoolers were swayed by photographs from unreliable stories, and almost all college students could not recognize a lobbying group posing as a reputable news site. I was curious if this trend existed among students at my own school, so I asked around campus to find out.
A reliable source is something with like an established name or something that you would see on a national news.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to answer.
A reliable source is a news outlet that isn't super biased.
What makes a reliable source, I guess, is like if you know where it comes from. So like if it comes from like a book or a news article, I guess.
A reliable source could be something like Wikipedia, I guess.
I think that most kids believe a lot of what they read online.
Kids definitely believe like anything they see on social media. As soon as they see it, they probably automatically believe it because it's on their phone.
Most people believe what they read on social media, but I don't really believe all of it because most of it's pretty stupid and it's pretty unreliable.
I almost think that teenagers are less trusting of information. And I think the problem that I see is like teenagers are so ready to just equate a random Facebook post with an article in a well-established newspaper or other sort of periodical, whereas there are still standards that some media outlets hold themselves to.
A lot of kids just don't really know how to or want to check their information, but kids are aware that there's a lot of false information, especially during this time when everyone's talking about it.
I don't know what that is.
Not really. I kind of just read what is available and then don't really follow up.
Sometimes. Like if it's like a big thing that like seems fake, I'll like look it up on Google.
No, I don't really fact check it. I think a lot of people just kind of assume that if they see it and it's from a source that they rely on, that it's true.
I don't, and that's probably because I'm too lazy to.
Students should definitely be taught about responsible source evaluation, judging the difference between a credible source and one that cannot be believed.
We have the information on call, but can we make sense of it? Can we evaluate it? Can we tell what's good information, what's bad information? I absolutely think that needs to be a bigger part of high school education.
If you're not literate about what's going on in the world, what are you going to do when you get out of school? There's so much media out there that if you're not aware of what you're reading, where it's coming from, you're not going to be able to make good use of it.
As a fellow student, I can relate to the confusion teens can feel about the need for media literacy. Our lives are too busy to spend hours looking into the credibility of everything we read. Fortunately, there are people attempting to help us. For example, the Trust Project at Santa Clara University is trying to help people by creating what they call trust indicators, a system of digital standards that meet people's needs. I recently attended a Trust Project workshop where they asked for feedback about how their system could be most useful to media consumers of all ages.
The idea of the Trust Project is to build a more trustworthy and trusted press. And what we're doing is providing transparency standards so that people can make their own decisions about what is quality news.
Other organizations focused on this issue include the National Association for Media Literacy Education and the Newseum in Washington, D.C., which are both effectively creating courses and other tools for students and teachers.
I think the responsibility really lies with the people, not with journalists per se.
The more we equip future citizens with the skills that citizens need to be effective and intelligent, the better we're going to be. If we send the next generation off into the world with no ability to distinguish good information from bad information, I think we're really in trouble. So at a time when we are all so aware and sensitive to the fact that information is being manipulated to achieve certain political ends by a wide variety of groups, regardless of your political affiliation, regardless of your thoughts on any particular politician or political issue. If you believe in a democracy, then you should value media literacy. You want educated citizens.